Today is Wednesday. We're in the month of May. We're going to discuss space. I just like to say that we have some special spaces coming up. Today is Raj's birthday. Happy birthday, Raj. Also, two of our subscribers are going to be celebrating this weekend. Austin Wade will be turning, I don't know how old, but he's a Dallas guy, and his partner, Amos, they're going to be getting together. I'm sure they're going to be having drinks and pizza and lots of fun. So happy birthday to some of our subscribers. How are you today?
Can I just say something that I can neither confirm nor deny the opinion you just asked for? I feel kind of down. Can you hear me okay? Because there is an echo where I am. Let me see.
Are you in a tunnel? Come out of the tunnel and come into your therapy room.
Let me see. It's a bunker. How about that? Is that better? I don't know.
Yeah, it's about all the same, you know.
So
6 of one, half a dozen of the other.
I feel like I'm being imprisoned. Shit,
You are imprisoned. It's called going to work.
It is. It is.
What?
And when you say all those nice people that are having birthdays, it takes me back in time when I was a child and had lots of birthdays. And no, I'm not so fond of them. Shit, this echo, I think it kills the sound.
No, I think it's awesome. It's very spooky because we're going to be talking about the space race. There's a song that I really like. It's by the Steve Miller Band. And the actual name of the song is called The Joker. And this is a song that my buddy David Anton and his cousin Eric, we like to play that song when we're like standing around listening to music. Some of the words are, some people call me the space cowboy. Some people call me the gangster of love. Anyhow, it's just it's a fun song.
Gangster. Okay.
What?
No, I thought people called you the gangster of love.
Me?
Yeah.
Well, actually, that's kind of true because my last name begins with a G, and a lot of people call me Miss G. And anyhow, yeah, I'm kind of a gangster. So a gangster is anybody that like hustles up on someone and takes something from them. You know, like politicians or gangsters.
Like pirates.
Pirates? Yeah. Well, you know, space is such a great topic. I was thinking that, well, not to be depressing, but, you know, we have to always mention death a little bit in our episodes.
Absolutely.
Just get over that. But there's a line from somewhere, I have to remember where it is. It's about, you know, when a person dies, they put them in a grave, or some people get cremated and sprinkled out amongst the water or the Texas Hill Country. But the line is, the grave is a fine place, but none do there, I think, embrace. Once you're dead, you're never going to be hugging, you know, so better like enjoy it while you can, which is the carpe diem idea of live life while you have it. How does that make you feel?
What's that? Carpe diem? Is it Latin phrase? What does that mean?
Not carpet. Carpe. C-A-R-P-E. Carpe diem. Seize the day. Live for the moment. Gather ye rosebuds while ye may. To old time is a flying. Like that's Andrew Marvell to his coy mistress, where he's written this. They're called the metaphysical poets. They write these humorous, little witty poems convincing women to sleep with them. But
isn't that illegal?
To sleep with women, not in the United States. It's, I don't know.
No, I meant poems convincing women to sleep with them. I don't know. It's not consensual. Maybe it sounds just not. No, okay. Anyway,
well, the guy, you know, he's just writing the poem. That anybody. I mean, you can't believe I've taught those poems to adults in in Houston, if you're teaching American literature or world literature, you're always going to go over poetry, novels, short stories, essays, and somehow the students like that. And I asked the students to write some of those poems down on little pieces of paper and find somebody during the week to give a poem to. And then when we come back on Saturday, let me know how it goes. So I did have a couple Saturday classes for 3 hours, and students found it amusing. There's a movie that has Robin Williams in it. It's called Dead Poets Society. It takes place in a British boarding school, and it starts off with the boys sitting there quietly reading out loud from their textbook, and then their teacher, who's played by Robin Williams, tells them, well, let's just chuck this textbook. I'm going to teach you what poetry is. Poetry is about living, taking risks, taking chances. And of course, Robin Williams gets fired from the boys' school because sometimes schools are not really trying to get you to think. They're just like holding tanks.
Hey, you mentioned Robin Williams. I recall 20 years ago, I guess 2000, maybe a bit earlier, I seen that movie when the dreams come true. I guess that was how it's called, The Dreams Come True. And there was an actor in it, Robin Williams. I kind of liked him. And then a few years ago, I heard he's dead. I don't know if that's the same person or not.
Yeah, he also did Good Will Hunting.
No, he committed suicide. Was that
yes,
the same person?
It was so. Yeah, and he also played Mrs. Doubtfire dressed as a woman as a babysitter, like such a fabulous comedian and very expressive actor. And many people were just stunned at how how he could have killed himself. But even really great comedy comes out of real living. And Louis C.K. and Dave Chappelle and all these guys and women too, talk about life. But yes, Robin Williams passed a couple years ago.
I was so upset. No, it was more than a couple of years ago. And what shocked me that he committed suicide because all his movies were about strive to live and how do I call that? I don't have enough words to describe, but I want to say that
it's like carpe diem, live the moment, and get all you can out of life. Yeah.
And then he does this. Oh, I like Louis C.K. I love him absolutely. I laughed a lot in a few episodes I saw. He's still alive. God bless him.
He was one of the lines that Alex loves about Louis C.K. is about, like, I don't know, he's kind of doing the spoof about, what should you do on a date, or what's a really good thing to do, and it was something about, like, let's just get a lot of food and come inside the apartment, lock the door, and eat all the food. So it's just about enjoying life and enjoying the people that you're with, and just kind of F off to the rest of the world. But getting back to go ahead.
No, you were saying.
Well, I was going to launch into the space program, and I was living in Turkey at the time. My dad was U.S. military intelligence, so we traveled around the world, and I just remember watching some different things on television, and people were wondering, like, is it really going up there? Like, what's happening? What about these satellites? What's Sputnik? And I know that, 1961, Kennedy began to expand the space program, and his idea was to land a man on the moon by the end of the decade. But in 1957, the Soviet Union had already launched Sputnik, and the space race was on. And then the Soviet cosmonaut Yuri, how do you pronounce his name? Gagarin? How do you say it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He was the first man to orbit the Earth in 1961. So that really pissed the Americans off, and the United States was like falling behind. So Kennedy requisitioned from Congress $7 to $9 billion to land a man on the moon and return him safely. So it's one thing to get the dude up there, but we got to get him back to Earth so we can interview him and be sure he really went up there. Maybe he can bring us some moon rocks and stuff. So that's when NASA was kind of really ramped up, and NASA is right outside of Houston. And I'm not sure if Richard Martinez is subscribing. His wife's name is Christina. They're having a baby in June. Hello, Richard. Hello, Christina. But Christina works as a security person at NASA. How does that make you feel, knowing we have really important subscribers?
Well, I would be happy if we could somehow exchange opinions with Christina. Is that her name?
Well,
Christina?
Well, the thing is, she's pregnant, and like when you're 8 months pregnant, you don't really want to go on to a podcast. I don't know.
You don't have to go out of your house these days. You just call whatever you want to call, whoever you want to call and talk. But anyway, I'm not pushing anybody. I'm kind of...
Yes, you are. Yes, you are. You're a man not completely not understanding that pregnancy is not something that men understand. They understand putting the baby in, but they don't understand that when the baby comes out, it is not as much fun as when the baby got in. So not to talk about birth, but what do you remember about learning about the space program and televised flights and the news? What do you remember as you were, as you followed it over the years?
Remember the posters? You might call them propaganda posters, or iron postal marks. How do you call that? Postal stamps? The small little pictures that you kind of sticky on the envelope. Postal stamps. Post stamps. I collected a lot. Yeah, stamps. I collected a lot of them. I still have some of them. I guess they are 40 by now or older, and I like to look at them from time now and then. And these propaganda posters, they're really beautiful. If you look to them from 2023, how it was in 1961, for instance, 1962, it does look good. It brings me back in time when I was a child. I was born in 1972, so I remember a lot. Yeah, I feel good. I feel good about NASA. Funny thing is, yesterday I came across this video on YouTube. They broadcast the ISS, International Space Station, from space, how it flew over the Earth in real time. And
wow.
I was stunned. Yeah, I was stunned how beautiful it looks. And there is a Russian module in it called Soyuz, I guess, or Progress. I don't remember. It was beautiful. And the space station.
Can you say that a little bit slower? Because when you say it fast, I can't understand it. There is what was in it? A soybean?
Soyuz.
How do you spell that?
What's the name of the Progress? Soyuz?
It's the name of a
Soyuz.
Progress?
No. Progress. Hold on. Russian module. I don't know what part it is. Maybe it's I cannot tell.
No, I just didn't understand what the. No, I'm just saying I just didn't understand because you were saying it real fast and like some people. Yeah, and you saw it, and then how did that make you feel, or what did you think?
Do you remember we had a program, Soyuz Apollon? I guess it was Nixon administration in the United States. Soyuz Apollon space program, the USSR and USA.
Well, I don't know. I wasn't always living in Texas. I was living all over the world. So sometimes we had television reception. Sometimes we didn't. Sometimes my dad was gone. We were kind of like living, I was just going to school and, doing stuff. But I know that Alan Shepard and Gus Grissom became the first two American astronauts to travel into space. Now, I don't know why I know the name Alan Shepard, but I don't know why I wouldn't remember the name Gus Grissom. I mean, if you're one of the first two guys to travel up there in space, don't you think people should remember your name?
Absolutely. Also, there was such a pride in it, and you're still proud, I'm sure, because they're your countrymen. Pride and respect for space travel at the time. I mean, there is still nowadays, but at the time it was astronomical. So the older
Well,
generation, like I am, we were proud for our country, and you are too. You're proud for your country. We always
well,
wanted to know more and expand into space, live, build a base on the moon or on Mars. So,
well, you know, the one of the things that I remember the specific outcomes of the space program that came into my life in a very physical way were these food inventions. So, you know, as I was raising my daughters in Houston, when visitors would come to town, they always wanted to go to NASA. You know, we'd have visitors from Turkey, from New York, from Wisconsin, from California. We had a lot of visitors coming through our house, and they always wanted to go see NASA. And they have a NASA museum and some of the spaceships, and they have a beautiful, you know, program where you can see and touch and play and push buttons and you know go back and look at what it was like as all these developments you know happened because people were studying about gravity and like well you know what were the astronauts going to eat and like you know what if they got bored up there and like well if they're sweating what should they do, how can they take a shower, like there was all these practical questions. And I just remember that when I was a little girl, I would I mean, even after I went to college, and I would come back to San Antonio and visit these old Italian great aunts. So my mother's side of the family, they're Italian and Hispanic, and on my dad's side, they are from Wales. Like, well, you know, anyhow. So whenever I would go to visit my old Italian aunts, they were so proud to serve me this drink called Tang, Tang. And it's just a bunch of sugar and citrus granules that you just mix up in a glass. It probably has like zero nutritional value. It's probably just all sugar, but it was a great invention that came out at that time. And also, you know, some families, I mean, you can watch this on shows called The Wonder Years, where they go back and they look at this time. That's a TV show about life back then. You know, TV dinners were a big deal, and having a TV tray, you could sit on your couch with a TV tray and eat a really terrible TV dinner and watch really terrible TV. And the Beatles were on, Ed Sullivan. So the program, The Wonder Years, goes back and encapsulates, you know, that time. But yes, I think that pride was part of it, and you know, people weren't really sure. Well, they're going up. You know, they're going up. Then after that, there were some other space launches that exploded, and I think they've just ramped up the space program again for like Discovery on Mars. And as we were talking about in a previous episode, you were saying like we're not really sure about the news about the space programs going on right now because they say they have to work on the astronaut suits some more. Well, I think that's a lie.
well, I don't know what to say here. What confuses me is that I still hope that I'll be able to live long enough, you know, to see the pictures of the dark side of the moon, and they probably left some garbage down there when they returned to Earth. It's very interesting to see how 60 years had passed, and I want to die knowing that we really been there. That this achievement, I mean, by us, I mean humanity, was not a hoax. God forbid, some people may just curse me right now if.
Well, you know, I know that I don't know, a year or two ago, I know people who live in New York City, Manhattan, Brooklyn. They were already buying or putting down payment for pods on Mars. So when you buy a house, I think it might be a little bit different in different countries. We have different people listening, different people have different experiences, different age groups. But when you buy a house, you know, you put down a down payment, then you pay monthly over time. And then once you finally pay off the mortgage, then it's yours, and then you die, and then you leave it to your son or daughter. So, like, most of the stuff that you accomplish in your lifetime, you don't really get to enjoy. It goes to your kids. But back to the pods. 2-3 years ago, I knew people in New York. These were powerful people that were already putting down payments on residence in Mars.
Well, yeah, many years ago, before the Mars thing, I remember for sure that there was a company, I think it was a joint venture. I don't know how it was possible. It was 20 years ago, maybe more. They used to sell the land on the moon. Like, you buy it, even if you can't go to the moon right now, but there is a possibility that you're not the ancestors, but how do you call that? Comes after you. But they'll be able to use your right to live on the moon, and this plot of land you bought today might be worth millions, like in 100 years.
And also the fact that you gave somebody some money, the person that sold you that really is the one that made the money, because we weren't really sure if it was up there or not. But I know that with the space program, people were selling moon rocks. Like, the word moon rocks became little candies that you could dissolve in water. You could also go to stores. Like, you could go to NASA to their gift shop. Now, of course, these were not real rocks from the moon, but the company that was selling moon rocks, they just copyrighted the name Moon Rocks, and they'd put like a little sparkly stone there. So like the stones probably came from, like, Houston, like some garbage dump or some, rock quarry. They put some glitter on it, and then somebody marketed it as moon rocks. But the idea of owning a little piece of the future is very, very appealing. There's also a company that was selling stars. Let's suppose you had an anniversary and you want to do something really special for your wife. Now, if I was your wife, I want to go out to eat. I want to eat something. I want to sit at a table, and I want to drink. I want to have music. But suppose you have a wife that, she's already gone out to eat. She needs a really amazing gift. Lots of boyfriends are trying to figure out what to get their girlfriends, their fiance. You could buy a star. You would get with this company that had mapped the sky, and they would say, oh, Stella 104 is available. So let's suppose that Austin decides he wants to buy Amos a star. So he sends in his $150, and then he gets his little certificate that says lots of love to, there's a blank, from blank. And some company got money. So I'm just saying, the idea of buying stars, buying a piece of the earth, has been around for a while. I was like astonished. I mean, when
stars, when you see the starlight, sorry to interrupt, but I couldn't keep it in any longer. When you see the star, it doesn't mean see it right now, because the light from that star, the star could have been destroyed a long time ago. But the light just came to you, reached the Earth. Probably traveled like, I don't know how many light years. And there is nothing to see anymore. It's just the light. You cannot buy a star if it's not there anymore. I think if I were a lawyer, I would have made a case here.
Well, the lawyers are busy. The lawyers are busy, filling their pockets with money and moon rocks and stuff. But you're right. But the person who bought that star for their loved one, whether it's a wife or a girlfriend or fiance, they had their beautiful moment on Earth. And isn't that what it's all about? Beautiful moments?
Oh, in case of a woman, yeah, you create memory. That's the only thing that matters. You create memory, and I don't know how to explain that. Memory comes first.
Memory comes before the deed?
Yeah, you may say that when you put it that way. But what I meant was that whatever you do, you have to create memory. Ideally, it should be good memory, right? Because your loved one, you wouldn't want to hurt anyone you love. So once you create memory for your life or your significant others, it's there forever.
Well, there's some new terms out there. You know, I don't know how long ago that came up with this term significant other, but there's another term out. It's called non-specific significant other. So,
What's that mean?
I don't know. It's like I have some different people I might go drinking with or traveling with or go just out listen to music with. And like they're a person that I would spend time with, like my friend Jeff, you know, it's not a romantic relationship. It's not a boyfriend-girlfriend relationship. It's just someone from time to time, you know, we'll go out to eat or something like that. So he's like non-specific, random person. But I would go out to eat with them, or like we could go have a couple beers. So significant other is like somebody you bring to meet your parents, or maybe you live together or stay over at each other's place. But there's all these new terms for relationships, and words are being invented all the time.
It reminds me of the army structure, because there are officers like significant others, and there is a non-commissioned officer, right? Which is, I don't know, lower rank, I say. I don't know how.
Oh yes,
how they come up with that name, non-officers.
No, yeah, that's exactly how it is. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
No, I have a story. No, so my father was an officer. He was a major. He was a lieutenant colonel. And as we were traveling around the world, you know, where people eat is called the mess hall. So there was like a cafeteria. So the officers would have the right to go to the officers club. So it was a fancy building with a great view, and we had not servants, what are they called, waiters and waitresses, and you know, we go there to eat, and my father just signs the bill, and like I don't even know if he ever paid for anything because he's an officer. But the officers club was really fancy. I remember graduating from high school, and my father hosted a party at this officers club in Frankfurt, Germany. And a bunch of people came, and everybody thought, you know, my dad was amazing because he was an officer. And then then there's the non-commissioned officers, and then there's just the basic guys. So I remember when I was growing up, my father was very class conscious. And so I was basically in high school, you know, just reading French and reading philosophy and like being a nerd. And, you know, I didn't want to play basketball, but they forced me to play basketball because I was tall. But I remember, and I really didn't date anybody in high school because I was afraid of boys. But my sister was a little bit promiscuous. And she, when she arrived in high school, she just went out and did whatever she wanted with whoever she felt like it. She was a rebel. And I remember sitting at the dinner table, and, you know, my mother was just kind of just trying to serve the food. And my father was at the head of the table, and he was expressing that he really didn't like my sister mixing with the NCO kids, non-commissioned officers' kids. Well, not only was the dude a non-commissioned officer's kid, but he was a black basketball player. So she was crossing some lines there. But the non-commissioned officers had a you know, a place where they would eat, and then also the officers would go to the officers club. And you know, this class consciousness, race consciousness, all these different lines that were drawn over time, I think, you know, have relaxed some, but yeah, in the Army there are these different, you know, what's allowed and what's not allowed. Did you do some military service?
Yeah. I when I was young enough, I got drafted to the mandatory service for young men. Like before Vietnam, I guess that was the same situation in the U.S., right? And then they stopped it. Like if you, once you were 18, you had to be.
Well, I know that you, with the draft and with the Vietnam War, you could be a conscientious objector. I mean, it's like, I don't want to go, and you have to explain why, and then they give you permission not to go. So if you're a college student or like, you know, some medical reason or something, so that there became this conscientious objector and the peace movement and the anti-war movement. But I just know that when they put you into the military, like they don't really spend a lot of time placing you in the right place, because when my ex-husband was doing he wanted to do military service in Turkey, go figure. And he was a brilliant mathematician, like just a brilliant mathematician. And I quit my job in Houston. I was teaching gifted and talented students. I decided, I think I'm just going to go to Turkey with this man that I'm going to go to a foreign country and just stay with his mother while he does his military service. And his mother didn't even speak English, but so we go to Turkey. And he was stationed in Burdur, Burdur, which is in the mountains in Turkey. And then, you know what they had him doing? Here's a guy who's like a brilliant mathematician. They place you in a different place. He was in kitchen duty, peeling potatoes.
Well,
His
not all the
assignment
time.
was-
I'm sure it wasn't all the time, right? That was now and then, but
No, that was his job for something like 3 months. Just go to the kitchen and peel potatoes. Just shut the
I was
F
like a
up.
cook.
No, he didn't even get to cook. I'm saying when you're in the military, there's military intelligence. There's logistics. There's supply. There's feeding the men. There's housing the men. So you have all these assignments. And instead of matching the person to their skill level, like when my father went into the military, he was super intelligent. So they assigned him in the Air Force in the United States. They assigned him to military intelligence. So he learned Russian and he traveled the world and he was the spy. And I'm like the daughter of a spy. But I'm saying in the Turkish military at that time, they just, suppose they have like 4,000 people or 3,000 people that have been drafted. They just, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, you guys are all going to be in the kitchen. Okay, all you guys are going to just, be building this, and all y'all going to do that. And, I just thought it was like so hilarious. He had won this mathematics scholarship, and he had come to Houston. He was like this brilliant person, and then he decided to go back and do his military service to preserve his dual citizenship. And dude was peeling potatoes for 3 months. What did you do when you were in the military? Are you allowed to say?
No, I was going to say that I got to peel potato too quite often, but that was a sort of a punishment, not like my job or my duty, right? But because life is not fair, and the army is especially not fair. And there is an order, and you have to carry on. Hey, do you remember that there was a slogan? I'm not sure if you heard it. That join the army, they say. See the world, they say. So you hear this, you come to the recruiter, and then you face the reality, which is completely opposite of what you were thinking.
Oh yeah.
It'd be.
Oh, I had a young friend, maybe about 6, 7 years ago, a young friend here in Dallas, and we were going out to eat Mexican food. We were just driving across town, and this person tells me, like, well, there's something I want to tell you. Like, I hate it when a man says there's something I want to tell you. That is not a sentence I ever want to hear from a man. There's something I want to tell you, something I need to tell you. It's like, I don't want to hear it. But he said he's thinking of joining the military. I go, what? Are you kidding? And I was driving. Or maybe he was driving. I just pulled the car off to the side of the road. I go, what are you talking about? He goes, yeah, I can see the world. Those were his words. And then when I come back, I'll have my college paid for. And I go, are you crazy? I said, are you just a flipping idiot? War is not like a video game you play laying in bed, pushing a bunch of buttons while you're drinking your Coca-Cola. You go to the war. I said, did you ever read the novel All Quiet on the Western Front? Did you ever read, like, Johnny Got His Gun? Like, war is hell. He looked at me, he goes, oh, okay. Then we went to go eat Mexican food. But people who are not in military have this idea of what it's going to be like. Like you come back and you're going to be able to get your college paid for. Yeah, if you don't have like PTSD and like traumatic flashbacks. Oh my gosh, I'm feeling depressed. I'm going to switch to slightly different, lighter tone. The cover shot, you're going to see a mural, and it's painted on an old brick building east of downtown Dallas. So on our cover shot or a thumbnail, it's kind of a grayish building, and there's some white paint kind of swirling around, and looks like there's like a spinning planet. And I like to drive around and like take pictures of murals, and I especially like this one for our episode about space. So I did want to mention that it's just about 3 blocks east of the Sheraton, the Jewel Hotel, the old Hilton. So it's probably like about 6 blocks from some very, very expensive high-rise hotels, in Dallas. And I like these old brick buildings, and how people go around and they paint on them, and they, try to express something about themselves or about life. I also like this poem by T.S. Eliot, which is kind of related to our theme. It's called The Love Song of J. Alfred Prufrock. And it was written in, I think like 1915, 1913, something like that. And I'm just going to read like the first 3 or 4 lines. So the speaker is a man. He says, let us go then, you and I, when evening is spread out across the sky, like a patient etherized upon a table. Let us go through certain half-deserted streets, the muttering retreats of restless nights and one-night cheap hotels. So it goes on and on and on and on and on. But it's about a guy just kind of looking at his life and wondering what it's all about, and kind of wandering through streets. And I've always liked that poem. I like T.S. Eliot. He's actually he's a British poet, but he was born in the United States. And he's got another set of poems called the Four Quartets that were written in 1943. And one of the things I love about the Four Quartets, one is called Burnt Norton, another one is East Coker, the other one's The Dry Salvages, and the fourth one is Little Gidding. But the theme of the Four Quartets, listen to this. Do you have your seatbelt on?
Yeah. The
theme is man's relationship with time, the universe, and the divine. Wow. How does that make me feel? What great poems.
Did you say the word mural? I never heard that before.
Yeah, it's a painting like the Renaissance painters often painted on the wall, like Leonardo da Vinci's The Last Supper. No, is that Da Vinci or Michelangelo? That's Da Vinci. It's not painted on a canvas, it's painted on the back wall of a church. So a mural is an artist presenting something to society. So it's in a public space, M-U-R-A-L, mural.
Is this legal?
Street art?
Yeah, well, if you paint it on the side of a house.
Well, in Dallas, music and artists are well supported. So there are areas like there's a place on Lower Greenville Avenue called the Libertine. It's a really great bar, wonderful bar, and they have some beautiful murals on the side of the old brick building. There's some restaurants when they open up, they'll pay a mural artist $500 to paint something on the side, and then there's other. So like graffiti is just running out there with your spray paint and just like, they call it tagging. You just go out there in the middle of the night and just start like writing some stuff on a bridge or up on a freeway. So some of the mural artists all over Europe, Paris and Amsterdam and Rome and just all over Europe, some of the graffiti artists have really evolved over time and they're just absolutely fabulous. But I think graffiti art comes from a tradition of making a public statement about something that you're pissed off about. Some places it's illegal, some places it's not.
Thank you, because I confused it with the graffiti, which I really hate for no reason, but I think that these people, they just like spread garbage. I mean, the graffiti folks. The murals, I understand now, murals is something beautiful depicted on a, I don't know, on a large wall, like Da Vinci, you said. I don't know, was that a fresco? Like what was called fresco?
Yeah, fresco means it has a egg under, it has a base on it, and then they do the paint on top of it, and then they put something on top of that so it can last throughout time. So, some of the artists in the Renaissance, they were paid by the Medici family sponsored the artist. So it's hard to make money as an artist unless you have a sponsor. So yeah, the mural painters of the Renaissance are actually very interestingly related to graffiti and mural painters in the 20th and 21st century. There's some fabulous murals in San Antonio about Mexican history and Mexican art and Aztecs and Incas and quite sophisticated. But I don't know. Remember when you were a teenager, full of like life and energy and like mischief and fun, and you just want to go out and do something ridiculous? Well, that's kind of what some graffiti art comes out of, that urge to merge.
Yeah, before people invented photography, I think those painters or artists, they were the only medium to convey the life for the future generations. Because once the generation dies, there is no photography, no bookkeeping, nothing.
Well, yeah,
except for the painting.
The patrons of the Renaissance, the Medici family, and in Spain there's Isabel and Ferdinand, all the wealthy, and also in Britain, they paid to have musicians play for them. They paid for people to write plays. They paid for people to paint their portraits. So, if you could get a sponsor or a patron, that's great, because you could do your art or your music or your writing with a sponsor. And in the Medici family, sponsored, a lot of great artists. So like artists can't just go out there and just like make a living. Somebody has to pay the bills.
It's interesting. I remember that story. I'm not sure if that's truth or false, about Mona Lisa. When Leonardo da Vinci painted Mona Lisa, I guess his sponsor refused to take it, or I don't know, for some other reason didn't buy it. So I'm not sure if that's true. But Leonardo da Vinci kind of hid it in the attic. I don't know where, because he couldn't sell it. Nobody wanted to, and the only one, the sponsor, refused. And somehow later, many years later, somebody found it, and now it became the art piece, world known.
Well, there's a lot of urban legends. A lot of people are very interested in the life of musicians and artists, and like Van Gogh and, Mark Rothko. And like there's a lot of legends that come up, just like you're saying, like, well, why did Robin Williams kill himself? Or like, what about Kurt Cobain? Like, why did he kill himself? Like, all these legends and little stories that come up, there may be some aspect of truth for it, and that's what the art historians do. They go back and trace the the Provence of the painting, like who painted it, where it was originally housed, how long it was lost, who had it. I mean, there's a lot of stolen art, during the Nazi occupation, Nazi occupations, and a lot of that was stolen and put in different museums. So like in the British Museum and in the Smithsonian and in the Tate, I mean, all these famous museums have all this art that was confiscated. And now there are lawyers in Manhattan trying to restore to the proper country or the family who this art belongs to, like, the Rothschilds and the, I mean, like that's another whole episode, like stolen art. I think we should make another episode on stolen art.
But I don't know anything about stolen art.
Well, that's why you're in therapy. No,
No, I remember that speaking of Renaissance, I thought I was going to ask you, what is your favorite Renaissance art? Because mine is, I remember now as a child, I remember the Sistine, what was the name of the painting?
Chapel.
Sistine Madonna?
Sistine Chapel. No, wait a minute. The Sistine Chapel has the creation of Adam, and that's by Michelangelo. God touching the finger of Adam and giving him life.
No, that's another one. The God touching the finger of Adam, I remember that, the creation of Adam, yes. But there was another one where woman holding, not woman, yes, because it's Mother Mary probably holding baby Jesus in her hands. Sistine Madonna, anyway.
Well, there's like many Madonnas. That's like,
but there's too many, too cute little angels at the bottom of the paintings. I can see them very often. When I was in the United States, the family I stayed with they used these angels in their family picture. Maybe I'll send it over to you later if I find it, but I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. Just I cannot recall the exact name.
It's Our Lady of Perpetual Help. That's how it's called. That is how it is named in English. Our Lady of Perpetual Help.
Who is the author?
Okay, well, the two little angels at the bottom, it's a prayer that has existed for hundreds of years. So the prayer has existed a long time, and different artists have interpreted the prayer, and I know it as a Russian icon. I have some little prayer cards that show it as a Russian icon, and a novena is a prayer that you say for 9 days with a special intention, and some churches have the Perpetual Help novena. So 8 or 9 or 10 or 20 people will show up, and they just pray that prayer for an intention. And then they have other little groups called, the Divine Mercy Chaplet. But let me get back to these little angels. I was teaching art history to some high school students, and I think I mentioned before that we did a trip to Paris. But like, I always loved words, and I always thought that the Mona Lisa was the Mona Lisa, but our tour guide corrected us and said it is not the Mona Lisa, it's La Gioconde. So like, my bad. And then I always thought those little angels were called little angels or little cherubs. But when I was reading some in an art history book by Jansen, I love him as an art historian, Jansen, History of Art. He was explaining in this book that the little cherubs at the bottom are called putti, P-U-T-T-I, the putti. Little putti are flying around on ceilings. So little putti are on ceilings, they're in the corners of paintings, and well, I mean, we could do another episode on religious art.
What do you think about that? Maybe. I thought you were going to say prayers, because that's an interesting subject.
Let's do that.
They say there is no atheist. Is that what they call? There is no atheist in a foxhole. Who said that? I don't remember. And that's totally true. Because once you I mean, you can be an atheist or agnostic for that regard, but once you're in the foxhole where the grenade is about to explode, I mean, all your prayers, thoughts and prayers, I'm only about one thing: how to stay alive.